and not everybody has that same experience. I was blessed.
Right. That's what I've heard too.
Yeah. So it's 7 o'clock. Hi, everybody. It's Maggee Miggins. For those of you who don't know me, I am Maggee Miggins, and I run the Maggee Miggins Group at Compass Real Estate right in Short Hills. Our office is located right next to the Short Hills Post Office, directly across the street from the train station. So I wanted to thank everybody. We have two really great panelists this evening. And as you know, I like to start on time and I like to end on time. And throughout the hour as we're speaking, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in our chat box. Just so you know, we are recording this, are we not? So we are recording. So just so everyone knows, we are recording. You know, the reason we do these panels, we don't do them all the time. I promise you we get nothing for them, just so you know. But the reason we do them, we believe, is that we should always be of service. So regardless if you're moving or if you're not moving, if we can bring people into your world that can help you with something, that's what we're just trying to do for you. I want to be clear about that. We think it's important to help others. That's just always how I was raised. Note that in the last 5 minutes, I will be presenting. Everybody always loves the numbers. So I've got some really good numbers to share with people in terms of what the current market conditions are for, you know, I just pulled half a dozen towns, a smattering of towns that we cover. If perchance your town isn't in there, that's okay. We have the data. We'd be more than happy to share it with you. So I just want everybody to know that as well. So we have two amazing panelists today. We have Amy Wax and we have Tina Robinson. Amy is our color consultant. She's a fine artist. In fact, I've seen some of her work. It's beautiful. She is an internationally recognized color expert. So she did go to Syracuse, if any of you are Syracuse fans, so is Amy. She has an arts degree in illustration, and she feels that color can really improve and benefit people's lives. So we like that. She's the first color consultant to be nationally recognized for her talent and the vision in the world of color by Benjamin Moore. So she was awarded a prestigious HUE award. She's also served as president of the International Association of Color Consultants of North America. And she, pardon me, has been recognized by House and Building Home Designs, receiving awards year after year after year. She also has 2 best-selling books on color, Can't Fail Color Schemes and Can't Fail Color Schemes Kitchen and Bath. Amy's lived in Montclair for over 30 years, and she's recently moved to West Orange. Her dad was in real estate. That's where she got her bug. She did some colors for her. We were laughing about this when we were talking. She picked out colors for her father's buildings that he had built in Morristown 30 years ago. She's gone back to visit them. It's still the same colors. So we decided they must have saved a paint chip or something, and they just keep reusing it because it's good colors. She has been featured on MSNBC. She's also, one of the things I think, Amy, and you'll talk about this, while you got into this business back in the 80s, long before HGTV and everything, Amy bought a house in Montclair, and what we call flipping, she flipped it and then proceeded to flip another on the block and another on the block. And all of a sudden, people were requesting you for your colors. And I guess, is that how it all began? Isn't that correct?
Yes. That's kind of how the ball got rolling. Because it was only a few years and we had a row of like 6 or 7 houses in a row. And then people got noticed, and we got noticed, and people would say, who do those colors? And it became known as Victorian Row. And then it was written up in the Star Ledger, and, kind of snowballed from there.
And it did. So tell us, I think what we'd like to do is share our computer, our screen, as they say. And folks, give us a minute while we do this. And we're going to go to all the way to the top. Okay. Painting and decluttering. It's that easy. Hold on, let me move us so you can see. Perfect. Awesome. The power of paint. So, Amy, tell us, this looks very vanilla.
Well, what's interesting is I thought the best way to tell the story about preparing a house for sale, or, we love a house that looks like it's staged. And what's interesting is not only do we love a house that looks like it's staged, we often would like our houses to have that look to them. How many times do you go home and say, why can't my house look like this? So I thought I would do is take pictures of houses that I did the colors for it that were staged for sale, and we could see exactly, you could see exactly in which picture why it worked, what we liked about it, and you could see how you can take that in your own home, or you can take these, you know, theories and apply them if you're going to be putting your house on the market. This, in terms of a vestibule, people often, for some reason, go for white, 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 and it really matters if you do a color. So when you first walk in, you feel some warmth, not something cool like a gray. It's better to have something that feels like it's a little bit warmer. And the beauty of having the white trim is that there's some contrast, because then you can see that there's architectural detail. It's not just an empty space. You want to walk in and have it feel like it's embracing you. It's warm and it's inviting, and not feeling like it's just a white room, which doesn't have any inviting quality to it at all.
Gotcha.
So each picture I'm going to go through, I'll tell you why I think this works. So
Looks good to
next
me.
one. This is a house that I did colors for, is down in Delaware, actually. And although the rooms were different colors, as you could see, and I'll go back to some of those other rooms in a minute, you can see that the entrance hall is not a strong color, but it feels warm and it feels soft, and it feels like anyone could live in this space, because it isn't really defined by style or age or demographic, or, you know, there's nothing that defines this. Anyone could move in and make it their own. So if you're going to stage a house and you want it to be universally appealing, the colors when you first walk in the door should be universal. They should be appealing to everyone and not be too defined by style.
So you're saying, like, you're trying to appeal to probably 80% of the buyer
Exactly.
pool, as it were, or even
Right.
it's
Because if you
neutral
did
enough
something that made a strong statement, it's going to turn off somebody. Whereas something that's this easygoing and comfortable, physically comfortable, it's not going to be a turn off. It's going to feel like, oh yeah, I can do this. I could live here right away.
Okay, got it.
This is the same hallway. What's interesting about this color, which I particularly like, is it looks grayer in some areas and warmer in the other areas. Color is very, when you're in these lighter colors, it really matters as to what your light bulb colors are. And you could see where in the entrance hall, it looks warmer, but down here where you don't have that same kind of light bulb, it looks like it's a cooler gray. So those are things to keep in mind when you're doing colors, is where they are, what the lighting is, how it looks in the different areas of the room. And if you do something that's this light and this easy to decorate around, you could do any accent color, any rug color. Anyone could accent it the way they want, and they also can move in and accent it the way they want. So it's not only that it's easy to present as a house for sale, but it also is easy to live with.
So you're saying this color where my arrow is, if you can see that, and this color are the same color.
It's the same color.
It's just a different color in a light bulb.
It's a different color in the light bulb. In the front, they have the incandescent bulbs, which are 2,700 Kelvin, and that warms up the space. Where back here, they had 3,000, which is a little bit cooler, and you can see the difference in how the lights appear. I mean, how the wall color appears.
How important is our light bulbs?
Very important. Absolutely very important. And nowadays, when we buy light bulbs, we have to choose, are we buying something that is on the warmer side or on the cooler side? It used to be a bulb was a bulb, and you only went by wattage, which was just the strength of the light. But this is how warm the light is and how cool the light is. To give you an idea, 2,700 Kelvin is what an incandescent bulb used to be. 4,500 is daylight, or sometimes it could even go up to 5,000 is daylight. So you could see where it's very warm and it's very balanced. So if you're doing something in the middle, then it's going to look like it's a more balanced light. But if you want something warm, like by that front entrance, that's where you put your warm bulbs.
Got it.
This is an interesting thing, because in an open floor plan, which we all talk about all the time, you don't have to keep every room of the same color. Like the kitchen is certainly one color in here, but the dining area to the left is a different color. And the beauty of that is it makes it feel like you have more rooms. If it was the same color as the kitchen, it would feel like an eating area tucked in the corner of the floor. Whereas this way, it feels like, oh, I have this great dining area. It has its own identity. So open floor plan is a concept where everything is open, but you'll be able to see that by using color, you can create the feeling that you have more rooms and more spaces, even though they're still an open floor plan.
Got it. Well, it feels like two separate rooms, quite frankly.
It does feel like, but you have the beauty of the traditional open floor plan that everyone asks for.
Gotcha.
And you'll see that in the next picture as well. So here on the left, you have the kitchen, open floor plan, but the room on the right is the living room, has its own color. So when you photograph the room on the right, which is coming up next, you will see that it feels like a separate space, but you have the beauty of the floor plan that everyone is longing for, which is wide open.
This one. Ah, okay.
There you go. That way the living room, which I wouldn't necessarily have staged this way furniture wise, but this is what they did, feels like it has its own feeling, its own space. You can decorate it separately because it has its own color, and does everything in an open space. It doesn't have to be the same color.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
It also makes it more interesting. If you're going through this space as a buyer, it's more interesting to go through a place where there's different nooks and crannies that have a little bit of a different identity, rather than all feeling like it's just washed the same color.
I call it the 50 Shades of Grey. They call it.
There you go. This is another house that I did. And this one we did 2 colors. It was also wide open, and you can see it's very warm and inviting. The reason this is a little bit warmer is because I wanted the cooler colors to look like they were cooler to balance it out. So the stairwell isn't a room, but it made it more interesting, made it look like a separate space, a separate room, because it had a separate color. So
the white on the door looks very glossy. Is that so?
it is a semi-gloss in that case, because we wanted a little bit more of a polished look, a little bit more of a contemporary feel to the space. Whereas otherwise it would have been a satin. The satin would have had a little less sheen to it.
Less sheen. And then less modern?
Less, well, it's a little bit more traditional. Satin is more traditional, but I think most people go for satin. The semi-gloss is really for people that want something that feels more polished, a little bit more formal, a little bit more contemporary.
More of a pop.
More of a pop. Exactly. Same space, but you can see how the dining room has its own feel, the stairwell has its own feel, and it makes it more interesting. If this was all one color, it would be very bland and it would make the house feel smaller. Whereas by adding different colors, like making the stairwell feel like a separate room, it feels like a bigger space because you have separate rooms. That's what it feels like, as they're separate rooms.
So the dining room and that foyer, the stairway going up, that's the same color. Is that so?
They're different.
They're different. Don't they look the same though?
They do look very similar, but they're different.
Got it. And the white really pops, that bookcase really pops it.
Right. And it creates a visual interest in the space, which is great, because that could be a wall that a lot of people would not really use. Whereas this way it gives you a visual interest. When you walk, it's also when you walk in the door, you're seeing something that's, visually interesting.
Got it. Oh, everybody needs a home office.
A home office, absolutely. Whether you have a small bedroom, a hallway, add a home office, because it really makes a room look like it's more usable, even if it's a really small space. I definitely would have taken some of these wires out on the floor, but I think that it can take any space which feels like it's a really cramped little bedroom, becomes a nice, generously sized office.
I think, Tina, they could have used you on that room.
Yes, and I noticed they could have used you in the other room with the shelves as well. The shelves could have been a little bit better done, but I did the color, I didn't do the design of what they added into the space. But what's interesting is you can take a small space, whether you're staging to sell or you're just doing it for your own home. And if it feels like it's a cramped small space, for one thing, rethink the use of it, because an office is something we all like to have a little retreat, and that's what a home office is these days.
True. Well, that's pretty.
Bedroom, large bedroom, but what made this room so interesting, because there's really not a lot architecturally. There is the ceiling fixture, but in the room itself, there's not windows that are interesting. There's not molding that's interesting. There's no ceiling molding, which everyone adds in, but it doesn't matter because the color makes it feel like, when you walk in. It just feels good when you walk in the room. So a perfect example of a very soft color is great for staging a home, because it makes it feel like you can feel good in the space. It doesn't have too strong an identity. It could be masculine, feminine, however you want to decorate this, you can do it, because the color is just soft enough and easygoing enough. But it makes all the difference in also making it a memorable room.
Sure.
Because if you do something where everything is, so many people are thinking that light gray is the way to go, but the light gray trend has really come and gone. But this is a perfect example of how just by adding a color versus making it gray, it has an identity. It's something that's more memorable.
It's a pretty shade.
It's a very pretty shade. It's very light. It's, it actually comes out of the gray palette, even though it has a lot of blue green in it. Not everything it comes from where you think. Take a closer look at every color, because sometimes if it's just, you want something light, you know, it's okay to go with something delicate. It doesn't have, you don't have to hit them over the head with color. Here's a bedroom, and a perfect example of where just by doing a color that has no statement, it could be boys' room, girls' room, home office, anything you want, guest room, whatever. But the gender neutral aspect of it makes it so it's appealing, and it's more warm than just gray. It's something that just feels a little bit more comfortable. But in the next slide, you're going to see what we did here. No, next slide, next picture. Because by adding the accent wall, it makes it memorable. If all of the bedrooms were the darker shade of white, shall we say, there wouldn't be anything memorable about each bedroom. But in staging the house in this one, I did accent colors on some of the rooms because it made it so that the room gave you something to remember. And navy blue is a classic color. It's something that could be anything from bedroom. It could be boys or girls, home office, guest room. It could really be anything. There's no identity to navy blue. So it gives you something that makes the room memorable, but also something that gives the room some identity, makes it a little bit more exciting. Because if you look at the room, there's no trim, there's nothing exciting about this room.
No molding.
Color makes it interesting. It makes it a space that, oh, this is a nice room. It's not really all that nice a room, it just has great colors. Another version, this is in another house I did where we were getting ready to sell. And we didn't want to do an accent wall in here because it was broken up by the window. So we did one color around. But the beauty of this is it is comfortable, it's easygoing, also gender neutral, and it goes beautifully with the wood. The wood can look kind of heavy, but when it has a color that relates to it, it takes the weight off of the wood and shares it all around the room. So the room feels like it's more comfortable, easier to be in, and it doesn't have any time restriction. You could use this room any time of day.
You're saying the wood of the furniture and the wood of the floor, just that.
Right. So if you did this room in white, the wood would look heavy, and it wouldn't really look like it would feel a little bit more awkward and not like it belongs in the space. Whereas by taking some of the warm gold tones out of the wood and sharing the colors with the room, then you almost don't notice the wood as much. It seems like it's a better sense of balance.
And so many of our people who are on the call, they have wood furniture, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult to turn around and say, hey, we're going to get rid of all this and bring in some light, you know, just changing everything because it's still their home.
Right.
Still want, so that's always difficult. That looks lovely.
But the wood is something that is more versatile if you work with it. If you just put it in a room and don't connect it to the room at all, it feels like it just plopped there and doesn't really have any connection to the space.
I see. I see.
So this way it works with you. This bathroom was interesting because we had all different kinds of stones and features and things that were colorful, and we needed to really take the weight away from all of these features, which were a little bit dated. But by doing a color, again, that's a soft color in the gray family, even though it's not gray, it just made it a much more pleasing space. It also, in this case, is not a white trim because I didn't want all of the, you could see in the mirror that there's so many places where the walls are broken up. So I did a lighter gray trim so that it kind of blended in and you felt the size of the room versus it being cut up by white molding everywhere.
So you saw,
but in the room, because it's so subtle, you're not really aware of it.
Got it.
Wow. This is a great example of where people often don't pay attention to the rooms that are odd shaped or attics or basements. Give them a color and they have an identity, and then suddenly becomes a really pleasant space. This is an attic, and the attic is painted a color and decorated. A great way of staging it, because otherwise this could easily be a storage space if someone didn't pay attention to it. But by decorating it and giving it a color, it gives it an identity. This way we did a wall color. Another way to do this would be to do a wall color that is so pale that it becomes wall and ceiling. If you don't want to define the space. If a perfect example is the walls on this are about 4 feet tall. The straight walls are about 4 feet tall. Sometimes the angled ceiling comes way down, so the walls are only like 2 feet tall. Sure. Then the ceiling is more important than the walls. In this case, because they were higher, we did just the wall color, but if the ceiling takes up that much space that it comes way down, then it deserves to be paid attention to and it deserves a color. So then I would do the color all the way over. But again, by doing a color that has a little, it's light, it's actually very pale, but because there's not a lot of daylight in here, the color shows up a little bit more. If there was more daylight, it would have been very washed out.
Gotcha. That's another angle of it.
Another angle of it, but you can see how light this color actually is, but it works in terms of staging the room because it feels like it's a generous room. It's really big. We could use it for anything, even though you had to go way upstairs to it because it's really just an attic.
Right. But it's a great way to get extra space in the house without having to add on.
Right. It's a bonus room, as they say. This is a funny room because this was not chosen by me, but this is a house I staged for. Remember the first picture? There was a room on the left that was this intense color.
Yeah.
They did this. The homeowners did this because they were worried. They really wanted this color. They love this color. And when they lived here, they chose this color. When the realtor came and told them to change it, they said no, because everybody loves this color. And they ended up leaving it. And the result was every time someone walked in the front door, they looked to the right because it's distracting. And they said, wow. And that they felt it gave everyone something to remember their home by. And what's interesting, because I don't know that I would do it if it's a color of a house for sale, because everyone would want to change this, or I'd say most people would want to change this, but they felt that everyone who left was talking about something. In this case, it was that room. I don't know if you want a room to be distracting, but I feel like in one sense, it certainly created a fun space. It's kind of timeless, certainly more youthful, but everyone longs for a family room in their house. And this could be something that would appeal to your younger, family members. So it's an easy way of doing something to really make one room stand out. What they also were unsure of how to use this room. It wasn't the dining room. It certainly wasn't a bedroom because it was next to the front door. It really wasn't the perfect space for a home office. So by giving it a strong identity, it made it just a fun place to be in. It didn't need an identity anymore.
Well, sometimes you can have that. Oh, the house with the orange room is probably what
exactly
to remember it. Do you know offhand, did that house sell?
Yes, it did sell. It actually sold right away.
It sold right away. Oh, there you go. I guess.
But they liked the fact that all of the other walls worked harmoniously and the colors flowed from one space to the next. And when you looked through the whole length of the floor, all the colors were easy going from one room to the next. This was a little jarring, but they thought they wanted to, they lived with it first, and then they decided to leave it because they wanted to make a strong impression. And that was their way of making the strong impression.
Well, I think they did.
I'm sure they made a strong impression one way or the other.
If anybody has any questions, this is Amy's information, and this is the best way to get in touch with her. You can email Amy at color@amywax.com, or her phone number is 877-COLOR911. And then, Amy, do you have a website as well, just amywax.com?
amywax.com.
amywax.com.
There's lots of examples of before and afters and interior and exterior, commercial, industrial, residential, lots to see. And I have a blog, which I post to every week. So there's lots to visit there.
Let me ask you this question. Are there any colors today that are, maybe we have to minimize this. Are there any colors today that are like the colors? They do those every year. I guess is it Pantone picks out colors, right?
Actually, all of them pick out colors. The interesting colors of the year are Sherwin-Williams picked Urbane Bronze, which is a very dark bronze color, which is extremely rich and dark and cozy as could possibly be. It's a wonderful color. Takes guts to use it, but it can really be done beautifully in a contemporary home. There's also, let's see, there's one that's like a blue-green. LG&C is Benjamin Moore's color of the year, which is great because it's a very soft teal, grayish teal blue, which is very versatile, very popular color. There's a different, they used to be, there'd be one or two colors of the year, but now each company is coming out with whole palettes. So it's becoming more and more popular. I think people just generally, if you look at the colors that are being offered for the color of the year, I think people are generally more open to using a variety of color and don't feel like they have to use one color throughout the whole house.
Almost like builders do that now. They just take, they buy 25 gallons of the same color and just go out the whole house.
Right. And I think that once people move in, they don't stick with that. They immediately start applying color. And I think that's where you see the importance of color, especially even in the bedrooms I was showing you. Even a light color makes a big difference.
Mhm. Somebody does ask, the blue-green one that looked like a master bedroom, what was that color? And you said it had some gray in it.
Yeah, it's actually from the gray palette with a whisper of blue green in it. But I don't know it offhand,
You don't know the color offhand. Okay.
but it is very pretty.
It was very pretty. Um, Let me see if I have any other questions. Do you have any other questions, Liz?
I think also, I'm going to
Yeah.
interject for one more minute. People are generally afraid to, they tend to get into their cozy spot of the colors they feel most comfortable with.
Yes.
Like they like blues, they'll use blues of all different kinds all over. If they use greens, they'll do the same thing. I'd say look at the colors that are what you wouldn't normally use. Look at pinks. I mean, my office, you can see my office, it's a pink, but it's very, very, very subtle. And the subtle color sometimes can be all you need in a room. It doesn't have to mean a lot of color to make it really have an identity. Pinks are great. Lime, very, very soft olives are beautiful. A lot of these unusual colors are becoming more popular because people, I think, are realizing you can do a soft color and it's just as successful.
Absolutely. And I think most people go along with the herd, but sometimes they think, oh, I don't want to look like everybody else's house. And I want
Exactly.
to have put my own handprint on it.
Yes, exactly. Because it gives your room a special identity and it gives it its own personality.
Absolutely. Somebody does ask how do you put a headboard in front of a window? I think that's always rather difficult, isn't it? To put a queen headboard in front of a window, to block a window.
Well, if the window is wider than the headboard, it works. That's rarely the case.
Right.
You can, I did a house in Verona where we put really stunning curtains behind on the whole wall. And the fabric of the curtains was really beautiful. And then we just put a headboard in front of it and it was fine. So that's another way to do it.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Somebody asked, they have a lot of bold, colorful art. So if you've got bold, colorful art, what are you normally putting on your walls?
Definitely don't go with white.
No?
No, absolutely not. Use a color that is a neutral that has a little bit of depth to it, because that way the bold colors will stand out. If they're too contrasty with the wall, then it does an injustice and the artwork almost looks harsh. It looks too strong. Whereas if it's tempered a little bit by a wall color that is a neutral that has a little bit more strength to it, then it's the wall art is easier to look at. It's like easier on the eyes. If you look at museums these days, they're not doing white walls anymore. You can go to, we've gone to a few museums in the past year. Usually we're doing a lot more, but we only went to a few this year. And, it's not uncommon to see red walls or navy blue walls. They don't have to be white walls anymore.
Wow, that's interesting. You picture stark white, don't you?
Yeah, no, but the white is too stark because your eye is drawn to where there's the most contrast, and you'll end up looking at the contrast of the artwork against the wall versus the artwork itself.
What do you consider to be neutral? I feel like your colors, you're so talented that any of your colors, you can make it a neutral.
Well, that's true. If the color is soft enough, it almost becomes, I have colors I call nearly neutrals because they're color, but they're just soft enough that they're not competing with anything else. And they're neutral enough. They don't have to be all the way to beige or gray, or, they don't have to be colorless. They can be a color, just be really delicate. And that's fine. That's neutral enough.
Yeah, the color in your office is beautiful and it's a pink, but it kind of works like
it's a really, really soft, it's almost really, it's not even in the pink family. It's actually a very, very pale color in the terracotta family.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But it's just enough. It's just a whisper of color. I can't have any color in here that's going to be distracting because I'm working with color. But to me, that's all I need. I just want to create a good feeling in the room.
Somebody asked about choosing colors for 2-story walls. We have high walls and ceilings with exposed brick.
So then the important thing to do is to look at that wall from everywhere. And if it's next to brick, choose a color that somehow relates to the brick in some way, even if it's a modest connection. Like even the color in my office, that relates to brick, even though it's very subtle. Anything that pulls some of the color out of the brick, it could be the color of the mortar. It could be the color of some of the grayer bricks and not the orange bricks. Look and see what colors are in there and pull something from it, and it will make it more easygoing to go from brick to wall. And the 2-story is not going to be that overwhelming if it's a softer color.
Right. Awesome. This is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Amy.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to go to Tina Robinson, who is the Simple Home Project. And Tina lives in Brooklyn with her husband, her 2 children, and her rescue dog, her fur baby. She talks about, Tina, you talked with us about always being organized and detail oriented, but having kids made you realize, oh boy, I better make sure that I am.
Oh, yes.
So in order to make life happy and peaceful, cluttered house, cluttered mind. So you have a background in fashion and design, and you say you're drawn to beautiful things and spaces, and your home should be functional but pleasing. So you help people create efficient spaces, as evidenced by behind you, but you don't want to ever sacrifice style, which I think that is.
I do need to add some color back here.
Yeah, I think, well, I see a little gray. You grew up in New Hampshire. You graduated from the Massachusetts College of Art. You were the youngest of 4 children, you told us, and you were not always the neatest, which was, oh my God, everybody, I was telling my age, I said, well, were you like Felix Unger? And she's like, who's that? Oh, like the icon.
Goodness gracious.
No. Moving to New York, you wanted to pursue a career in fashion, so you worked as a fabric developer for Marc Jacobs, Philip Lynn, and then the last 7 years, Oscar de la Renta. So you started your business about a year ago. You've got your 2 little kids, 4-year-old and an 11-month-old boy. God bless you, and your fur baby. So Tina, take it away. Tell us a little bit about, Leslie, you'll go to her slideshow and how this all works for you. We're going to show you some really, here, you start, you drive. Is it working? Hold on, we're driving. One second. There we go. Present. Sorry, I forgot to click present. There we go. The power of decluttering. You know, I think, Tina, and I do think, and I don't know if anyone else feels this, but I feel like in the springtime, there's something within us, in our DNA, that wants to clean things up and donate and get rid of and change, and I don't know, I just think it happens. And so I think sometimes it's an emotional pull as well, trying to throw those things out. And do I really need this? And don't I really need this? And so maybe sometimes we just did something where we saved things and let my husband, we saved stuff, all 500 wrenches, we'd saved them. And they're in one space. And so that made it a little bit easier for him. And now we'll go through those wrenches. But the point is that there's something about putting it all up, something all in its place. So tell us a little bit about what, how you go about doing this.
So yeah, I work with a lot of families who, they call me in because they've gotten to a point where it's too much for them. They need help. They need somebody to come in with an outside perspective and, kind of help them work through their clutter. The process, it works a little bit differently with every client. Everybody has different needs and, different reasons for holding on to things. But, it's like you said, it's usually about making sure that you kind of at least categorize things, and then you can kind of see what you have. Maybe you start to feel like you don't need as many things, and you kind of start to declutter, and then it kind of starts to get rolling, and you get really into it, and then you just kind of keep going. So, the benefits of decluttering is, I don't know about you, but I just feel the mental load is really heavy these days, particularly with this past year. And we're having to juggle so many things where we have our children at home, our spouses are working from home, we're at home. We're not doing that much outside of the house. And so I think it's important to kind of bring yourself back to some calm and peace by doing things like decluttering, organizing, reutilizing spaces in your home. You can see in this photo, the space behind me used to be my daughter's closet. And now I've turned my kids' bedroom into my home office. They've taken over the playroom as their bedroom, because we just needed to kind of move around our home just to make things work a little bit easier for us. So sorry, I got a little off topic, but The important things of decluttering are to make your home more inviting when we start to have people over again. Or if you're putting your house on the market, you want people to feel at peace in your home. You want them to feel like they can come in, sit down, have a cup of tea, and feel settled.
So you have here, always identify sources for disposal. So we do it in our local area. We have a Goodwill where we can drop things off. What I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm sure for all of those of you that are on Facebook, all of a sudden things just start popping up in your feed where people on Facebook Marketplace, they're saying, I see people selling things. I'm like, what are they selling? But I think it sells. I think, and if you're on Facebook Marketplace, if it doesn't sell after a week, you have to reduce the price. This is what my daughter tells me. But a lot of people are going on this to, as you say, a place to sell things, or if it's more expensive stuff, maybe something like a Poshmark, I guess, or.
Yeah, Facebook Marketplace is great. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people are going there, especially this year, because production facilities are backed up. Say you want to buy a new desk, the desk that you want might not be available. It might be back ordered. Things at IKEA are really back ordered. So people are going on Facebook Marketplace just to buy, normal furniture for their homes nowadays, I feel like. So I think it's actually a really good resource to kind of offload your things.
So when you're first going into some space, you're designating boxes and bins and you're labeling them. Clear box is usually a good thing to do. Tell me about what makes the most sense. I guess, do we have a picture of it? Oh, not yet.
Clear boxes are great. It kind of, depends on what your aesthetic is and what you prefer. A lot of people like to see everything that they own. So that's why those acrylic boxes are really fantastic for them.
Sure.
Some people get a little bit bothered by seeing everything. They want, kind of uniformity. So, things like these white boxes are great. You can label them so you can tell what's in there, but you don't necessarily need to see the contents of everything.
I think that laundry room looks pretty good. And you took down the bar, it looks like.
What's that?
Yeah, it looks like you took down the bar and you just made it nice and neat and put everything in its place. So now you know how much laundry. I was telling you earlier, I have a year's worth of laundry detergent. I had no idea we had. Just kept ordering it because it was hidden behind things. So if anyone needs laundry detergent, I've got free and clear, a year's worth. But
so yeah,
very nice and neat.
Yeah, and I put everything on the right-hand side. That's, everything that you're using every day. That's your stain removers and your cleaning supplies, because it's right next to the bathroom. And then up top, there's backstock. So, extra laundry bottles, extra Clorox spray. It's a little bit harder to reach because you don't need to access it every day.
Got it. Let me see what the next one shows.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When you're laying out something like a laundry room or whatever, do you find space for everything that's in there, or do you ever create more storage for if you grow into something or need more of something as you fill in your supplies?
It's great to find space. I find, I do a lot of New York apartments. So there's not that much extra space to kind of leave room to grow. That's why I think decluttering is always great, because that helps you create the space that you need.
Right.
So
wow.
Like in this laundry room, I helped to go through some of the, there's old stained towels that you don't necessarily need anymore, but for some reason you just never got rid of them because
you never used them to stop up something. And
yeah.
This is your custom. Now this is very interesting. Could you imagine? Look at that on the left. You didn't need to buy Q-tips because you had some, but you didn't know you had them because they were hidden up on the upper left. See? Oh yeah.
Exactly. So this was actually, she was a former coworker of mine, so I knew her style. I knew that she, wasn't the most organized person, and she said, "Tina, you need to come and help me." So I wasn't surprised when I opened up the cabinets, but yeah, she has, a few different. I was doing all of her cabinetries. She has 2 bathrooms. So I created zones for everything, so I made this kind of the skincare and makeup zone. or the nail care and makeup zone. And then there's, in her other bathroom, she has a whole skincare zone. And then she has a whole, medicinal and utilitarian kind of bathroom cabinet. And then she has a hair cabinet now. So before, everything was just kind of jumbled in different places.
Now this looks very interesting because like you're saying, there's not a lot of space. So you added.
So here, yeah, we repurposed these black shelves that were just sitting in another room, not really getting any use. The shelving unit on the bottom. And then, I just went to IKEA and picked up those 2 shelves for the wall. And, that's just for, this is a kid's room. The boys love to make their, Lego designs, and then they like to hold on to them. And so this was a nice way for them to kind of, display their cute little Lego creations on the shelf.
Sure. And you get to see more of them.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a hot mess express, that one. Oh my land.
Yeah, so this was a family who moved into their house. The pandemic happened. They took off to stay with their family for the whole summer. And then they came in, school started, and she called me in and she said, I just need help. Like, I haven't had a minute to do anything. And so we kind of repurposed. We found another solution for her cleaning supplies. We moved all the, the paper towel backstock to the top and created a pantry for her here. So you can see everything. Here we used wire bins instead of the clear acrylic ones. She wanted to be able to see her things, but she didn't want to use a ton of plastic. So this was a good solution to use the wire bins. And we, stuck these labels onto them. So everything has a category, and, we tried not to make them very tight categories. They're kind of broad. We have, Mexican. And so anything that would go into a Mexican flavored meal would go into that category.
Yeah, where did you get those wired bins?
Those are by M Design, and I order them from Amazon.
Amazon. And this is just a coat closet that you had to turn into a utility closet.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, another New York closet. They live in Soho and they don't really have that many coats. And so she said, I just really need a place to store all of my extra things, my cleaning supplies, my sports equipment. She needed to make it, really easy because she has, a cleaner that comes in and she needs to be able to find everything really easily. So here we had Alpha units, the Alpha shelving unit installed to create some more shelving space. And then here everything is also in clear containers, but they're not as, fancy. They're not the really beautiful clear containers because it's really just a utility closet. But if you look closely, everything's clearly labeled. So whoever's in that closet knows exactly where to put things.
I think that's important. Now you're talking. So papers.
So yes, memorabilia. This is, not necessarily the place to start when you're decluttering because it can be very overwhelming. You're going through photos, old papers, you get sentimental about things. So I helped this family to kind of corral, all of their family photos. I went through, I should have put some photos of the insides because the inside of each of the baskets on the bottom, everything has a clear envelope and it's labeled with the kids' art and the, family heirlooms and things like that.
The memorabilia, I think we talked about this, Keith. You say you do that last though, don't you agree?
Yeah, I recommend saving that for the last because it can take you a while to go through it. And you can kind of get stuck. And I think if you start with something like a kitchen or, something that doesn't hold sentimental value, you start to get into the mode of, I don't need everything. And once I start to get rid of things, I start to feel better. And then once you're in that mindset, it's easier for you to go through sentimental items and you don't realize you don't feel the weight of everything so much.
Sure. Where does it all go? So these are just, I love these pulleys. I see for me personally, and you have everything color coded book wise, which is interesting, to be able to see what's inside of it. I think that's also very important because otherwise you wind up like 100 screwdrivers or you don't realize everything that you have
Yes.
Just keep buying because it's plain, you know, you can't reach it, so you don't think you have it. I think I found a dozen tape measures that tearing out a basement. A dozen. I'm not lying. Oh, God. Let me just see. So donate Goodwill or Salvation Army or
Mhm.
charity. Baby toys and kids stuff. Yep, parenting group. That's good. There or women's shelters, which I think is always wonderful.
Yes.
Because they're always looking for those things. Facebook Marketplace, Apartment Deco, OfferUp, and Craigslist. I don't think we do so much Craigslist down here. I think we do a lot of Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, it's kind of taken over. Instead of Craigslist, people are more often going to go to Facebook Marketplace.
Facebook Marketplace, absolutely.
Yeah.
And clothing, if you have, you know, expensive clothing, you can go to Poshmark or ThredUp. Real is for the very consignor stuff. You know, like
for
design or
design.
jewelry. If you're looking to sell, there's also Heritage Auctions does jewelry as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where we can find you. So you're in Brooklyn right now. So if you really want to small spaces, that's good for you too. Simple Home Project, Tina's phone number and her website and her email. This has been really helpful. I do find though, I agree with you about working on some rooms first that maybe you don't necessarily use all the time. Maybe like you started in our area out here, we have probably 10 rooms. Our homes are like 8 to 10 rooms. Maybe starting out in a living room or the dining room or, you know, one of the bedrooms as it were, because it's kind of difficult, don't you think, if you're in the kitchen, because aren't we always in the kitchen all the time, do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I feel like that's where you feel like you're making an impact.
Sure.
You know, even if you start with the kitchen drawer, then you feel like you've done something, you've made an impact, and you can kind of move on. Living rooms and dining rooms are a little bit less satisfying, I guess, to start with, because there's not that much usually, and it's kind of spread out.
Yep.
You know, in your living room, like maybe you'll have some books, but you're not going to have like the majority of your things. You kind of have your furniture and maybe some art, and maybe some books. But where your clutter kind of builds up is things like the pantry, your entryway, coat closet, things like that.
Junk drawers. I mean, how rewarding is that when you clean out a junk drawer? Oh,
It's so good.
that feels so good. So we have a question. What's the most important thing to do to declutter your house to get it ready to sell? Like, what is the most important thing? You got to get your house on the market in 5 days. What's that most important room?
I say clear your surfaces, because I think that's the number one thing that's going to make your home feel cluttered and feel, you know, a little bit like it's coming down on you once you walk into a space. If your surfaces are clear, like your countertops, the tops of your console tables and dressers, I think that's going to make a big impact.
So in a kitchen, no toasters, no coffee pots, no jars of ladles, no knives.
As you know, you need to function in the space a little bit, right? So, you know, but I would try to put as much away as possible.
You could probably, and I've seen people do this. I mean, a lot of us have these kitchens where you pull out the drawers and you could, you know, toaster, you could go underneath or whatever. It's an inconvenience for hopefully 5 days, and then you get your house sold. But I think, and personal pictures as well, those should go away unless they tell a story. I think if they're on a wall and they tell a story, that's one thing, but otherwise personal pictures away.
Yeah, and I find, especially, you know, if you have like smaller frames on, you know, a dresser or something like that, that can start to feel cluttered. And so I think especially personal pictures like that.
I don't think you should take down your, somebody asked, should we take down your artwork? I don't think you should necessarily, unless it's offensive, but I don't know if there's anything that's really out there that could be so offensive.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's nice to see some art when you go into a home.
I think it makes it visually more interesting.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little biased.
If we're telling them to paint, sometimes we tell them not to put their artwork back up, believe it or not. Sometimes we do that. It depends. It depends upon, I think, the space and the size of the artwork. I guess that's probably what it is.
Yeah, I imagine it's a case by case basis.
Exactly.
Sometimes larger pieces make the walls or room look smaller.
Mhm.
So in that case, rather than having a piece that's huge, making the room look like it's small because the artwork looks too big, without the artwork, you won't be distracted by the size of the artwork.
Mhm.
Well, somebody did ask, where did you get those beautiful cream boxes that you had for the storage? I guess that was on the memorabilia page.
Oh yes, those I ordered from B&H Photo. They're archival photo storage boxes.
You want to put, so we'll type that in, B&H.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a photo shop in the city.
Okay, so we'll get that, B&H Photo. And then the other place you ordered on Amazon,
Yes, they're called M Design.
M like in Maggee Design?
Yes.
M Design. Or what are the wire bins? Those are the wire bins.
Yes, those are the wire bins.
Okay, that's
You
perfect.
find that there's more
Links.
Pardon me?
containers available now than there used to be? Like, are people making different options?
Yes, definitely. Honestly, actually, a couple of months ago, there was kind of a run on everything because there was a popular show called The Home Edit. I don't know if everybody's familiar with them. They're a design organization team, and they had a show on Netflix, and so everything was back ordered from the Container Store for like months. But yeah, now there's so many things on the market. There's definitely a solution for every space.
That's good.
Yeah. And you can also shop your home. You might have some really nice baskets or bins, in your garage that you didn't know about, or you can repurpose them. And if you don't, for me, I like things to be always aesthetically pleasing. So I like to have, the matching baskets and bins. But you can repurpose old boxes as well.
Awesome. Ladies, this has been so helpful. We are just going to, for the last 5 minutes or so, just talk about the real estate market, which we always like to do. And this market has been on fire. I've been selling real estate for 25 years, and I haven't seen this market since 2005. So I've been telling, smart money selling is what I keep telling everyone. We just listed something in Millburn, which our office is in Short Hills, but of course it's all the township of Millburn. And we listed a home that had 9 offers on it. It had 50 showings.
Wow.
It's just in attorney review, so I can never talk numbers until the day it closes. But one can assume that if it had 9 offers on it, that it didn't sell for asking, it went above. But the idea that there were 50 different groups looking at it, and it's only March 18th. There was another house that was listed in Short Hills that one of my agents, I think she had an offer on it, was going to have an offer on it. I don't know. It was a new buyer. It was listed for $1,560,000. It had 22 offers. 22.
Wow.
So it's a very funny thing about real estate. Buyers are, oh my God, how much do I have to pay to get this? How much do I have to pay to get this house? I want this house. And they do anything. But when the market shifts, and it usually goes like this, it's gradually and then suddenly it shifts, then the buyers turn around and they're like, how cheap can I get this? And then they go into a holding pattern. So it's just a whole different dynamic. We believe that this is going to be a good year for real estate. We believe 2020 was the better year in real estate if you were selling, but we also believe 2021 is going to be a very good year for real estate. We believe interest rates will go up. We're starting to see those cracks, as I call them. In 2020, you had, like, if anybody bets horses around here, the trifecta. You had the lowest interest rates, and you had people fleeing from the city because there was too much crime, unfortunately, with the mayor, and you had a lack of inventory. Well, what's different about the 2021 market as compared to 2005 were the tightening lending standards that we have today that we didn't have then. So back then, you didn't need any income or any source of income, and you could buy $1 million home. You can't do that today. There's still strict lending practices in place. But we do have very much so a lack of inventory, and we'll continue to. We pulled up numbers though, although it's not the end of the month. I went and did a little, I'll share this with you. I went and just did a little homework about through, is that it, Les? Through today, the 18th, we had done, hold on one second. We can always send it to you too. And I have my other reports, but the lack of inventory is incredible. We took, now, when you look at 19 and 20, those were the end of the month. So we just, if you look at Maplewood today, you have through March 18th, you had 18 new homes come on. In 2020, we had 32. And in March of 2019, 40 new homes came on. And then you could see how many went under contract. So far in March, 17 homes have gone under contract as compared to what was happening in March in 20 and 19. But look at the unsold inventory. And when you see that number in parentheses, for instance, right now today in Maplewood, it says there are 26 homes on the market, but out of those 26, 7 of them are in attorney review. So they're really not for sale. They're going to be coming out and going under contract. So if those had gone under contract today, in Maplewood, we really only have 19 homes to sell. 19. And that is not a lot of inventory at all. That is not a lot of inventory. Last March, we had 37. The March before, which is probably a typical March, we had 67 unsold homes. So compare 19, and just 2 years ago, there were 67 at the same time. So that's a little frightening to look at it from an inventory perspective. The same thing we did. So we did Maplewood, Milburn, South Orange, Summit, Chatham, Westfield, Madison. Something like Chatham Borough, they have 12 new homes so far this month, but they only have 16 homes available to buy. There's just not a lot of inventory. So if you look at the unsold inventories, look at Westfield. Here's a town. Westfield has 42 homes unsold this month, right now, where we are in March. 2 years ago, they had 185 unsold homes. So you could see that there's just no inventory, and things are selling quickly. So, and if you don't sell in a market like this market, that just means your price too high. So I caution everybody that your prices are high right now and will stay that way. This will be a good year for real estate. We do see interest rates going up. And I always laugh. I say, when I start to see real estate agents putting their homes on the market, you know, the market's good if they're moving. And we're starting to see that, believe it or not. So if anybody has questions about the market, I just wanted you to kind of get an idea of some of these numbers. I think it's really important that you know that we are in a great market, and that started last year because of COVID and people feeling that they needed a place to escape. They didn't want to be in the city and not be able to escape. We're seeing a lot of city people moving out. If you're driving throughout our communities, you'll see a lot of New York license plates. We're also starting to see a lot of the kids that grew up in all of these towns moving back to the towns, raising families of their own. But we'll probably start to see some pressure end of this year, maybe first quarter of next year, in terms of inventory levels and pricing. But right now, smart money selling. That's what I say to everybody, smart money selling, because the prices, they haven't been this high since 2005. Last year, we set a record in the state of New Jersey, 132,000 homes traded. And I believe at the height of the market in 05, which was our last high market, it was about 108,000. So I tell you this because I just want you to know it's a really hot market. It's a really hot market, but it doesn't stay that way. It doesn't always stay that way. And I think that's important you know that. And if you have questions about it, you'll let me know. People want to know about stores, whatever stores posted. Okay, so we have this, Josie, if you need the stores, my friend will be more than happy to send those out to you. And Mary will, right, we have those, Tina, you sent us those. If there were any other stores that you wish to know about, you let us know. If anybody has any other real estate questions, you'll let us know. It's been our pleasure to sit with all of you, and we thank you for coming on. And we thank Amy and Tina for helping us. And it is just coming up on 8 o'clock, so that's when we finish. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, Maggee.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Maggie.
Thank you.